Jeremy, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Good, good. We're on video today. If everything goes well and the Skype video works, this is the first time I'm trying this, so we'll see how that works out for us. So you are also called the credit repair doctor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out. I mean, obviously, credit repair. I know what that signifies. And in this day and age, I'm sure that there's a lot of people very interested in credit repair. On the other hand, I know probably that there's a lot of people, when they hear the term credit repair, they also start thinking about warnings they've seen about, unscrupulous kind of people who do credit repair that really take money and don't do anything.
Yeah.
So I guess I know you're not that kind. So,
Yeah.
so I thought maybe what we'd start with was, why don't you tell us what exactly is a credit repair doctor and a little bit about your story, how you got into it?
Okay. So the credit repair doctor essentially is a course that allows people to repair their credit at home, so that way they don't have to give up all that financial information. They don't have to share their credit issues with another individual who is a stranger. To give you a short background, essentially I had some issues when I was young and dumb. I fixed my credit, I started helping out family members, and the next thing I know, I'm helping out everyone. My phone's ringing all the time. It seems like a good problem, but I had a full-time job at that time in wholesale lending, and I kept being told, why don't you open up a business? And I'll be frank, I was a little scared, but I eventually did it. Opened up the business, everything was going well. It's a profitable business, so there's no complaints on that end. But I became conflicted very quickly because the problem with it is you want to help them out as fast as possible, but you have so many files. That was my main problem. Another issue I've seen at other places is they want to keep you in the program as long as they can, because the longer you're in the program, the more money they make.
I see.
So I became conflicted quickly, and through a little bit of work and some different ideas, I came up with a course. Essentially, I put everything I knew as being a CEO into this course, and I just made a 8-step guide that makes it very simple for people, because you don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This isn't fun. So essentially what it does is it takes you through the 8 steps and makes it easy for someone. Within a weekend's time, you can actually go through the entire thing and have your first disputes already out to the creditors. So that's kind of a little bit of a background on how I came to do this.
I was kind of thinking there for a second when you said you have 8 steps. I was thinking maybe you should have made credit repair a 12-step program, and
Yeah.
it might have more effect that way.
Yeah, it probably
Maybe
would
it'd
have a
sink
nice
in.
jingle to it. Yeah.
Then they won't have to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay, so unlike there's some of the companies you hear out there, you're actually helping other people learn how to do this themselves.
Yeah, so there's no type of, with the average service, usually there's not anything wrong with this, but they do charge, some type of fee up front. It could range from $100 to $300-400, and essentially what they're doing is they're just opening up your file. They're not really doing a lot of work, but the reason being is the government cracked down on credit repair companies because unfortunately there are shady ones out there. And they ended up making it where you cannot charge a consumer any money until you've done all the work. So that's the way that a lot of these companies get around it. So bigger picture, when everything's said and done, over a 6 to 12 month period, because they try to keep you in there as long as they can, as we were talking about, you end up spending anywhere from $1,000, $1,800, and that's all money that could be used for, especially in this economy, that's groceries, that's car payments. It just that adds up to so much for most people these days. So there's other routes that you can go. You don't even have to get a course like mine. There is information on the internet. You just have to be very careful where you go to get that, because there's a lot of misinformation for numerous reasons. I won't go into why it is like that. But yeah, it's one of those things that people can do it on their own, and it may seem intimidating at first, but it's actually really easy once you have the steps.
Okay. Well, I want to come back to this, but I just thought of something. A week or two ago, I saw in the newspaper that the government is really going to crack down on the credit reporting agencies. There was a whole. So let's come back to that one. But before, because I want to ask you how that's going to affect all this thing. But I guess the question is, can people really, can they repair their credit? I mean, if they have bad credit, we've always kind of believed that it's on there and it's going to stay on there until, whatever the statute of limitations or whatever in the world of credit. Is there such a thing as statute of limitations?
Yeah, they're two different things. They're very similar. Essentially, really quickly, the statute of limitations is the amount of time that a collector can sue you. Each state is different. In my course, it's a one-page paper, and it says, here's your state, here's how long they have. A quick anecdote to understand how serious this can actually be for someone, because in different industries I've been in, I've seen this happen where you get a collector that calls you and says, you owe us $2,000. Mm-hmm. It's been 4 years. We haven't gotten anything from you. We're going to sue you unless you send us a payment. Send us $40. That'll keep us happy till next month. $40, you think, you know what, I'm tired of the calls at home, I'm tired of the calls at work. $40 is worth getting them off my back for a month. Seems pretty simple, $40. So what ends up happening is you pay them, but by giving them a payment, it can actually be $1, Bob, it doesn't matter how much it is. By giving them a payment, you restart the clock on the statute of limitations. So if you're in a state where it's 2-3 years, most of them are around 3 years, but let's say it's 3 years, and you were past the time where that creditor was allowed to sue you, by making a payment, you just restarted the clock. So unfortunately now, they can sue you for the next 3 years. Mm. So that's one little thing that you have to be very careful of. Of course, I described that in full detail within the Credit Repair Doctor, so that way nobody makes that mistake. Because the last thing that you want to do is be in the clear, and then suddenly now you've got 2 or 3 creditors suing you because you restarted the clock. And people don't know this. I mean, they have no clue. They make a payment. They don't realize what just happened.
And so they can, if they have stuff on there, I guess if it's really recent, though, they can't repair that, right?
You'd be surprised.
Really?
We mentioned the credit bureaus. Essentially, there is no law that says they have to keep anything on your credit report for any reason. Now, there is a law, the Fair Credit Reporting Act, and essentially what that says is if there's any item on your credit report that is incomplete, so incomplete could be as simple as it's missing your credit limit. Let's say you charge around $2,000 a month, the limit on is $10,000. If it does not show a limit on the credit report, which happens probably, if I had to guess, from what I've seen, 20% of the time, there isn't a limit on one of your cards. So essentially, for something as simple as being incomplete, you can actually request to have that deleted off your account. Or, because credit utilization is worth 30% of your credit score, just having that put on there could bump up your credit score. So if it's a good account, but that's missing, all you do is you request to have that report. It takes you 5 minutes. They don't mind doing that. That's not a big deal at all. And the next thing you know, you could have a 20, 30 point bump in your credit, which could be the difference in getting that car loan or the mortgage that you need. Another item is if it's just simply inaccurate in any way, which to keep this short, that could mean the monthly payment reporting is incorrect, the amount showing is incorrect, the date that it was opened. Essentially, if you can find even the smallest mistake on your credit report, that's another reason. And then the third one the law says is if they can verify it. Essentially what that means is if they cannot verify, that being the data furnisher or the actual credit bureau themselves, if they can't verify the information, they cannot keep it on your credit report. And there are so many people that have this problem all the time where they go and they submit a claim and the credit bureau says, well, we verified it. You send one more letter saying, show me how you verified it. They can't. They can't prove it because even with all the technology we have, there's so many files on consumers and these banks aren't keeping records. And you know what's gone on lately, Bob, with the robo-signing, with the mortgages, for the foreclosures. Now they just recently, in the last couple of weeks, found out about the credit cards that were being robo-signed. These banks aren't following the law.
The credit cards?
With credit cards. Not only that, but they're saying it's Chase Bank. Chase is, I think, the largest now in the U.S.,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, they are, yeah.
So the issue here is that there's so much misinformation, kind of like I was just mentioning on the internet, and a lot of that is by these banks. I mean, the banks are the biggest institution we have. I mean, they're the ones that make all the money. Mm-hmm. And so they don't want everyone to have good credit. They would not have their profit margin if it wasn't for that. There's a difference between someone who gets a 4% interest rate, even a 0% interest rate on a car loan, compared to the person that gets a 25% interest. I mean, you're talking millions and millions of dollars just in car loans alone from that. So to wrap it up, people are told that they're stuck with their credit for 7 years until it drops off. Most of the time that is not true. And so as long as you have the easy step-by-step guide on how to go through this, it's not difficult.
Okay, so, well, that's interesting because it sounds like there's so much information that someone would need to know, but you've managed to put this in a guide that takes them through it. So I'm impressed with that.
As a friend put it, I could have my 14-year-old son do this work. And I said, well, will you do that? Maybe videotape it for me so we can watch. Because if your kid's in junior high and they can go through these steps, because it's very easy, Bob. I actually have videos. Me and my team create some videos. One is I actually pull up my own report. It takes 5 minutes. Here's my credit report. I blank out the personal information. Then I go through in another video and I show them, here's what to look for. And then in writing, I make it very simple. You look at the 7 main items that you can remove off a credit report, and you go after the ones that hurt your score the most. And then, even if you did not want to, let's say you didn't want to deal with deleting anything. Let's say you just don't have a lot of credit. A lot of people these days, they just don't have a lot of credit. A law last year made it where you have to now be 21 years old unless you get a co-signature from your parents. So less and less young adults are getting credit. So even if you need to build credit, there are numerous ways. There's one, in fact, that I used with my parents and with tons of my clients. Essentially, it's a piggyback is what it's called. And to keep it simple, you could end up raising your score anywhere from 70 to 100 points. It takes 10 minutes of your time. It's that fast.
And that could mean 100 points could mean be pretty significant for a lot of people, correct?
100 points, I mean, I don't want to make this sound dramatic, but 100 points can change your life. I mean, that can be the difference between you getting your dream home, a car that runs well, that you enjoy driving. I mean, nowadays, car insurance, your agent probably doesn't tell you, but your car insurance charges you more if you have bad credit. You could have a perfect driving record. It's ridiculous. If you move into a new apartment or a home, the utility company will charge you an actual deposit of $100, $200, $300, $400, depending on how your credit ranks. They shouldn't be able to do that. But if you have good credit, they don't charge you anything up front. They just charge you your monthly amount.
Right. So what a lot of people, you know, I think that people know what credit scores are, but maybe, you know, what they mean, but maybe a lot of people don't. So could you just quickly just tell us what that, I think it's called FICO, is that the...
Yeah, so there's 2 main credit scores.
Okay.
I always try to keep this simple, so I apologize if I become long-winded with this. FICO is the one that's been around for the longest. It's used by around 80% of all lenders. So if you get a mortgage, a car, any place, that's what they're looking at. Now, the 3 credit bureaus got tired of seeing FICO making money with their credit scoring. So the 3 main credit bureaus, they're like, well, why don't we create our own credit scoring? So it's funny because it's in our industry, it's called the FACO instead of FICO because it's the fake credit score. It's not saying that it's fake, but it's on a different tier, Bob. And essentially, you could have a 700 credit score with the FACO, or what they call the Vantage score is the real name. Okay. And unfortunately, with the FICO, you could have a 550 credit score. That's an enormous difference. And so people hear, if I have a 720 credit score, I've got good credit. But if you pull the wrong credit, you could be in trouble. And a simple story is, somebody gets credit monitoring. They watch their score. they see it gets above 700, and they were told by their mortgage person or the car dealership or whoever it may be, once you get to the 700 credit score, we can help you, or 650 or 600, whatever the case may be. They go back in there, their credit gets pulled, and it's not where it needs to be. But they say, look, I worked in the finance department at an auto dealership, and one time I had a lady, it wasn't my customer, but I saw a lady say, hey, look, my scores did go up. And they're like, sorry, that's not the type of scoring we use.
Oh, gee, yeah.
So
great.
it's just tough. It's just one more layer of confusion. And so what's nice is when this is laid out for you, like, here, grab your credit report here. It's free. There's no cost. There's no membership. This is what to look for. Here's where you get your credit score from, right? So you get the right one. Here's the letter. Here's 3 sentences that you write out. 3 sentences. Here's the address. You mail it in to them. You wait 30 days. Everything goes well. You're done. If you get a stall letter, here's how you respond to them. I mean, you're talking maybe 15 minutes a week for maybe a couple months, and people can change their entire lifestyle. And I try not to be dramatic about that, but you see these Geico commercials, Bob, where they say, we could save you $200, $300, $400 a year. I'm like, I could save people $1,000 a month,
right?
Let alone a year, So that's what's nice about credit repair, and that's why there's so many people in the business. But then at the same time, like you said, there's a lot of misinformation.
Sure. I mean, and you've got a lot of resources, free resources on your website, right, for some of these things?
In case someone can't afford the product or for whatever reason, actually, I've done my blog for 2-3 years. There's no ads on there. There's no kind of anything. It's all free, essentially. So you can go on there and you can get pretty much all the information I talked about. Of course, the course has a lot more information, has it in a much easier way. But yeah, there's a lot of free resources on the blog.
But people could also just find out like where to get their free credit reports and website URLs and all that, and all the things that they might not know. I mean, it's pretty simple, but again, people, unless they just Google it and find it. But there's probably more than one place to get a free credit report too.
Yeah, so essentially the one that is exactly for the government is annualcreditreport.com. Oh, okay. But if you look at some of these other places, they'll give you one free report or they give you a free score.
Sure.
It depends on who it is, and it's one lender, so it's nice. But essentially, you have to look at all 3 credit reports. A lot of people don't realize that if, let's say, you have a collection account that only reports on your TransUnion credit report, but it doesn't report on the other 2, and you pull up one of those 2, you don't even know you have a collection. Because you looked at one of these 2 reports when there's this bad thing over here. And so that happens all the time where people don't realize that there's something even on one of their credit reports because it doesn't always show up on all 3.
Wow. Okay. So that's all great information, and in this day and age, I know it's well worth having good credit and good credit scores. I mean, like you said, I think you can save thousands, and certainly over a lifetime a lot of money if you keep your credit score up and don't allow bad information to go on there. I had told you one time about a story that I found that I supposedly had my name on a house that for a mortgage in a place that I had never even been there, and there it was. The only good thing was it was all good. It was whoever really had it paid it on time, and it was fine. So it probably helped in the long run. All right, great. What is your website? What's the address?
Okay, so the free blog is mycreditrepairtips.com. So mycreditrepairtips.com. And then the Credit Repair Doctor website is mycreditdoc.com. So kind of like doctor, mycreditdoc.com. And both of them have free information on them. So.
Okay. All right. Well, before we have to run, what anything you'd like to leave people with there? Last thoughts?
Yeah, the one message I always try to tell people is you're not stuck. A lot of people just feel like they're stuck where they're at. Mm-hmm. And it's not true. You're not stuck with the type of credit that you have. I mean, I know from personal experience, one, it helps you out with your credit. you feel good getting that financial status, so to speak. You can brag that you have good credit. But really, the other thing is you just feel better about yourself. I know that helped me. So there's the financial aspect of credit, but then there's the emotional. And I don't want anyone to feel like they're stuck where they are, because that's not true. And you can always repair your credit and help out, financially. There's a budget guide and stuff like that also in Credit Repair Doctor to help people out, not just with their credit, but with finances also.
Sort of part of the 12-step program then. Yeah. All right, great. It's been good talking with you.
You too, Bob.
Thank you very much, and good luck with your program, and I hope you sell thousands of them here and help some people out, especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Bob.
You're welcome.